Ladies and gentlemen, as we move into the summer, video game news is going to get crazier and crazier. But as it turns out, this week is like the first-person shooter week. Name a first-person shooter, we've got news for it.
It's not a first-person shooter. Fortnite?
Yep.
Okay, Battlefield?
Yep. New stuff for that.
Call of Duty?
Yeah. Tons for Call of Duty.
What about a new game? What about Borderlands?
Even Borderlands,
Marathon?
and even the failing games of like Marathon and stuff. And speaking of which, some of that is a little bit scary, things that are going on in video games. But speaking of scary, one of the things that has happened this week is Call of Duty has once again predicted the future. I talked about this on Ink Slasher in a story video, going over how China within Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which takes place in the year 2025, which by the way is this year, predicted correctly that China would start to hoard rare earth elements. And that's the exact story of Black Ops 2. And that's what's going on in the real world. But that's not it, because this week we found out more. In Black Ops 2, there is a score streak known as the Swarm, which is essentially an airplane that lets out a bunch of bomb drones that then go and attack various different soldiers. As it turns out, China has one of these called an aerial mothership, and it is going for its maiden voyage in June. It can house over 100 small drones or 1,000 kilograms of missiles and strike at a range of 7,000 kilometers. I know, that's scary, but what's even scarier is the amount of news we got this weekend. That's why we created this show called the Weekly Reload. Welcome to the Weekly Reload, the weekly gaming news show that comes out every single Sunday. Now, generally on this show, we have a little bit more of a focus on first-person shooters. We cover a little bit more Call of Duty or Battlefield than other gaming news shows. But this week has been wild, specifically for shooters. More specifically, first-person shooters. Now, the first one we have to talk about, though, is not a first-person shooter, and that is Fortnite. Fortnite is back on iOS devices. We talked about it last week, how Apple was dragging their feet on bringing Fortnite back to their platform after the lawsuit between the two companies. So way back in the day, essentially what happened is Fortnite removed themselves from iOS devices because Apple wouldn't budge on the amount of money that they were taking from microtransactions. Then a lawsuit happened that Fortnite then won, which then Apple was not happy about and refused to put their game back on iOS. Well, the courts ordered that they do so, and now Fortnite is back on iOS devices. So if you have an iPhone or you have an iPad, you can now play Fortnite on there. Now, speaking of bad decisions by management, holy crap, do we have a dumpster fire here with Borderlands. Now, if you don't know, the CEO of Gearbox, who creates the Borderlands games, goes by the name of Randy Pitchford. He's eccentric, he is all over the place, and he makes really good Borderlands games. But what he doesn't do is perform very well as a hype man. Essentially, what happened here is Borderlands was announced to be coming to Nintendo Switch. And when it was, one of the things that's been going on with Nintendo Switch and Xbox is that they are raising the base price of their games to $80. So someone responded to Randy Pitchford talking about this, said, "Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed the notion of constant increasing price tag. You're the CEO, you have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher." His response was A, not my call, which, to be honest, he could have just left it at that. Completely fine answer. And B, this is where things get dicey. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. Really, dude, I personally, I live in Canada. The NHL playoffs are currently going on. And unfortunately, I am a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm a big fan. I have been since I was like 2 years old. They just flopped real hard in the playoffs. And guess what? They were in the second round of the playoffs in Game 7, and I wanted to go see the game. Tickets were thousands of dollars. I couldn't afford them. They were too much money. Does that make me not a real fan, Randy Pitchford? If I don't buy your game because my monthly budget doesn't allow it, because I need to feed my wife, feed my kids, and take care of my family, and yeah, an extra $20 can make a difference, and maybe there's other games that I need to get my hands on, does that make me not a real fan? I think it's a little bit over dramatic. And to be fair, to look at the other side of the coin, I bet you he's hearing this a lot lately. I bet you a lot of gaming CEOs are hearing this lately, but imagine for a second just being the PR team. Imagine being the PR team for Borderlands, and they're building up hype. And honestly, this game had hype building. People saw the gameplay and wanted to see more and wanted to play the game. And then they moved up the release date. And then your CEO says you're not a real fan if you don't have money to give it to them. Your next 2 months are going to be very hard as that PR person. So yeah, some pretty big mistakes made there. Now, speaking of big mistakes, have you heard about Marathon? Well, let's quickly go over what has happened so far and now what is going on at Bungie. So first things first, Bungie announces Marathon and it goes into alpha. This is a closed alpha, not everyone can get in it, but the people who did say the gameplay is really lackluster, but the one thing that saves it just a little bit is the art style. Well, turns out a bunch of that art style has been stolen. That's obviously a bad thing. The community went in and found exactly how much of this was stolen, and turns out it was quite a bit. So we are then left with a game that people don't like the gameplay, and the thing that they do like is plagiarized. So they had a live stream, and this is what they said.
It came to our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon in the early stages of pre-production took a number of graphic elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement, and placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. The decal sheet included icons and text elements. These elements ended up in our alpha build, and there's absolutely no excuse for this oversight, and we are working on and 100% committed to our review process to ensure instances like this don't happen again on Marathon or at Bungie.
So yeah, they fully admit to what happened. This was on a storyboard. They then didn't know it got put into the game, and obviously this is a bad thing, and you can see by this clip how bad the morale over at Bungie actually is. I'm still calling this is going to get delayed. It essentially has to at this point. I'm going to be shocked if it doesn't. And to emphasize that, this live stream that I showed you was supposed to have more gameplay, additional gameplay, talk about what they've changed, but they couldn't put the gameplay into the live stream because they didn't know if there was going to be any stolen or plagiarized assets in the gameplay that they showed, which was wild. Now, the entire chat during this live stream was just double downing on the sentiment and the statement, "Plagiarism makes me God," which is a play on their slogan for their game, which honestly is pretty funny. Speaking of community, the one thing that has been happening pretty much every single week, or maybe every 2 weeks, is a community update for Battlefield Labs. Now, this is the play testing for the next Battlefield game. We don't know whether it's just going to be called Battlefield or Battlefield 6, but this week, the thing that they put out was on classes and the class system that they are going to be using inside of Battlefield. And it got controversial. So basically, they put these out on Twitter. I think it's every 2 weeks. They've talked about movement. They've talked about destruction. This week, the class system, and the thing that they said is essentially on every single class. So they're still going to have like recon support, things like that, with various different abilities for each one. So for example, with recon, you were able to aim down sights, and if you just look at someone, it'll immediately spot that enemy. That is what's different class to class. Now, traditionally in Battlefield, your weapons have also been different in each class. So if you want to use a specific sniper, you have to play as recon, for example. However, it appears as though this game, Battlefield 6 or New Battlefield, is not going with that system. It's going with a more Call of Duty style system where you can use any weapon with any sort of class. The weapons are not bundled together with classes, and a lot of people, specifically Battlefield traditionalists, were not happy with this, whereas other people who might be coming in new to the franchise were very interested by this, giving them more options as to how they could play. Now, they did say that certain weapons' abilities would only work with certain classes, but you could use any weapon with any sort of class. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that one? Moving into the Call of Duty side of things, first of all, some good news if you're an Xbox fan. The FTC battle with Xbox over Activision Blizzard King is now officially over. The case has been dismissed, and this battle has been going on for quite literally years. The FTC trying to shut down the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and clearly it did not work. And speaking of things that did not work, Warzone Mobile. As of last week, Warzone Mobile was taken down off of all devices, and we were left wondering why. First of all, they have two mobile games. They have Call of Duty Mobile, and they have Warzone Mobile. As someone who doesn't play mobile games, I didn't know the difference between these two games, but as it turns out, especially money-wise, there is a huge difference. Warzone Mobile was created to essentially bring Warzone, that is the free-to-play game on console and PC, to phones and have some cross-play, cross-progression. Well, not so much cross-play, but cross-progression between battle passes, levels, weapons in between the two. Call of Duty Mobile was more set to be its own game. Well, as it turns out, money was also the other difference, because Warzone Mobile, since its launch in March 2024, essentially an entire year, made $17 million. Now you may be thinking, hey, that seems like a solid chunk of change. It's not a lot for Activision or Xbox, but hey, like how much can it cost to develop a mobile game? Well, the answer to that is quite a bit, but more specifically, Call of Duty Mobile, its other Call of Duty mobile game, and somehow also its competitor, makes more than $17 million a month. So it makes 12 times more money. So why would they put the promotion into Warzone Mobile if they already have an IP and a property on mobile that is making over 10 times the amount of money? So hence why Warzone Mobile got shut down. Now, the other weird thing that happened with Call of Duty this week is there was a leak, kind of, a gameplay leak, a bug that you could do in game that would turn on double jumping and wall running in Black Ops 6. Now, this is important because it is rumored that Black Ops 7, the next Call of Duty game coming in 2035, is actually going to include wall running. We've never heard anything about double jumping, but wall running at the very least. Now, people were split on this. Essentially, I did a poll on Twitter. It was a 50-50 split as to whether people wanted wall running in this next Call of Duty game or not. But as per usual, I have a theory, specifically a tinfoil hat theory. So here's the thing. As we know, the next Call of Duty game, set to be Black Ops 7, have wall running, be similar to Modern Warfare 3, where we have 2 Black Ops games year after year, like we had 2 Modern Warfare games year after year. That didn't work out for them, and the community sentiment behind doing that was very, very off, to say the least. Now, I think they're doing this on purpose, and I specifically think they will add wall running and maybe even more crazy components, because I think they want to go so far on one side to the arcade shooter similar to Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare futuristic shooter, because the game set to come out after that is Modern Warfare 4. So in other words, they can do this big swing from super arcade shooter to super militaristic, more realistic, down boots on the ground to earth style video game, and have this big swing and bring players back in to be like, look it, we listened, we're going to what you asked for. Is any of this confirmed? Absolutely not, and that's why I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. Then we have Season 4. Now, Season 4 is coming out this week on Thursday, but you may be wondering what is coming inside this season. Well, essentially, we have 2 6v6 maps and then a 2v2 map. They are looking pretty good, and they are all based in Iceland. Why? Because now Stitch, Vikar Kuzman, the bad guy in Black Ops Cold War, is teaming up with Russell Adler to hunt down Pantheon. That's essentially the short of the backstory for Season 4. Now, in Warzone, we are getting a big building. That is essentially the update to Warzone. Also, the hand cannons being added. But yeah, a big building with a vault inside it that honestly does look pretty cool, but I did think we were going to be getting some more older POI updates, like stadium opening up, things along those lines, the trains opening up on the map before we were going to get new Easter eggs. But it looks like they're adding in new POIs already, which I do think is a positive thing. As far as zombies goes, we are not getting a new zombies map. We are getting a new mode called Grief Mode. It is the first time in over a decade that we've seen this since Black Ops 2, which I think is 13 years ago. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's been quite some time since we saw this. And if you don't know what this mode is, it's PvPvE, which 2 teams fight to survive the longest in a zombies game, and you can do and capture points that will then sabotage the enemy team. Speaking about things that are coming out, the thing that came out this week is a game called Splitgate 2. Now, I played this game and I was very pleasantly surprised. The best way to explain this one is picture Halo meets Portals. This game launched on Thursday, and it launched at noon Eastern Standard Time. I got maybe a solid 3 hours of gameplay, which there were a lot of bots in the game that I was playing, which, as we found out, was a bug. But then about 3 hours after the launch of the game, the servers just died. And essentially, 2 things happened. Microtransactions and in-game purchases were not working correctly, as well as the servers just completely fell apart. Now, normally, if this was to happen to Call of Duty, we wouldn't know what the heck was going on, no one would speak to us, and we'd have no idea what was happening. But this was a beta release for Splitgate 2, and not the media director, not any sort of comms person at the studio. At 1047 Studios, the CEO went on Twitter and made this video.
Hey guys, this is Ian Prue. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 1047 Games. I just want to say I'm super sorry on behalf of myself, Nick, the whole team at 1047. Obviously, this is not the spot we thought we would be in 24 hours after the launch of the beta. We thought we would be in great shape by now, and obviously that's not the case. We're really sorry. Like, I mean, this is what we've been working on for years. What I've personally been working on since college 10 years ago. Like, this is, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. We're going to do right by you. We are committed to making this the best game possible, getting these servers fixed as soon as possible. Like, we are working around the clock. We're up late last night grinding. Like, the team is, we're going to get there.
So he came on, he apologized. He said, we have the entire team working on this. Later that night, they ran a server test, which they specifically said, microtransactions and XP are currently not working, but if you guys want to hop on to test our servers out and help make this game better, I would greatly appreciate it. They then took the servers down back offline. They said, we figured out a bunch of things that were broken. They're fixing it, and they are constantly putting updates out on their Twitter. This sucks for their game. Don't get me wrong, this completely ruins the momentum they built for this game and the money that they probably needed to recuperate at the launch of the game. But I hope the transparency that they are putting out there, the CEO putting himself out there, telling people what exactly is going on, should be something that every live service studio does. It should be common, and it shouldn't be rare to have communication going on in the game that you play. So I applaud them for actually doing that, getting out there, risking taking some slack. But yeah, it should be within the next couple days, hours. It might even be live at the point that you see this video, that the servers are back online. And if it is, I will be playing it, I will be streaming it, and I recommend you guys checking it out. It's free to play, and on top of that, it is lacking a little bit of content than a full-scale game launch, but it's still in beta. And the game plays pretty damn good and is pretty damn fun. I will say though, there's quite a large skill gap with the portals in there, and good players are really, really good at this game. Speaking of good players, the game that everyone talks about every single year as the greatest game that's ever been created is Elden Ring. There's a new Elden Ring coming out this week. Now it's a little bit different. It goes by the name of Elden Ring Night Rain, and it's kind of like an extraction shooter battle royale roguelike style Elden Ring game. It's a little bit weird, but it comes out this week on the 30th, and if you are an Elden Ring fan, I think this is one you're definitely going to want to check out. FromSoft just never seems to miss whatsoever. The other thing that doesn't miss is the weekly reload. The real question is if you're not already subscribed, if you're not already following the channel, if you haven't followed all of the socials down below, what exactly are you doing?
Bro, don't forget out the meme.
You really wanted me to learn the meme.
You gotta learn
Yeah?
the memes, bro.
All right, let me look at it. All right, so I just have to see what this thing says. Say them fast. Okay, so I just look at this and say them fast together.
Yeah, quickly.
Okay, chicken Pepsi run key. Chicken Pepsi run key.
No.
No? Okay, let's try. Chicken.
Yeah.
Chicken run key. Chicken jog key. Chicken jockey.
Got him.
Oh, god damn.